Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this installment of Beyond the Tassel. My name is Brittany Cousins, and I serve as the Career Based Learning Manager here at Cincinnati Public Schools. And we are excited to come before you one more time with a new installment of this series that we created to give students access to items that they should be considering as they are exploring their 3E journey. So whether you want to enroll, enlist, or go straight into employment, we are providing you skills, strategies, as well as opportunities for engagement. There we go. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Thumbs up to people who are watching. If you can hear me, if you can see me, I would greatly appreciate your affirmation. All right. So my apologies for that. But welcome to this installment of the Beyond the Tassel series. We are excited to be before you today for this opportunity where we are here to give you the strategies, skills, and techniques that you need to continue your journey on your 3E pathway. My name is Brittany Cousins, and I serve as the Career Based Learning Manager here at Cincinnati Public Schools. And we are excited to come before you today for this experience. We are excited. We have one of our longstanding partners joining us today in this particular experience. We are excited to welcome Junior Achievement, who has co-partnered this experience with us by bringing in business partners to highlight the very much popular career field of entrepreneurship. So I would like to welcome Ms. Dion Owens, who serves as the District Director for Cincinnati from Junior Achievement, to join me on the screen and so that she can welcome our amazing guest for today. So welcome, Dion. Nice to have you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having Junior Achievement. We are honored to be a part of this partnership, and we are definitely honored to bring forth this type of information that we feel is so enriching and rewarding. So I want to not take up too much time and go straight into introducing our dynamic moderator for this event. I have personally known this individual for well over 20 years, and I think you all will be pleased at the way he's going to handle today's discussion. So I would like to introduce to you Mr. Derek Dansby. Derek Dansby has been a full-time realtor with Coldwell Banker West Shell since 2014. He began his real estate career working with 3CDC, which stands for the Cincinnati Center City Development Corporation, and later served as the Director of Development for Price Hill Will. Mr. Dansby's professional career began in social services as a staffer for United Way of Greater Cincinnati, and he later served as the President and Executive Director of Smart Money Community Services. One of the major incentives under Mr. Dansby's leadership, or one of the major initiatives under Mr. Dansby's leadership, was to assist small business or micro business owners to become successful entrepreneurs. Mr. Dansby currently serves as the president-elect for the Greater Cincinnati Realtors Association. He is a board member of the Over the Rhine Foundation Charter Party and continues to serve as an advocate for financial literacy and wealth building to end poverty. So with that, I know we can't hear your applause, but I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Derek Dansby.
Good morning. Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Dion, and thank you as well, Brittany. I am very appreciative to have the opportunity to be here to moderate this panel of just fantastic entrepreneurs who have a load of information and experiences they would love to share with you today. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Cincinnati Public Schools as well as the other school systems that have decided to participate in this event. I'd also like to thank Junior Achievement for putting this on today. But most importantly, I would like to thank you, the students who are here listening in whatever platform you may be on. I know that you all have the fire and the energy and experience to be a successful entrepreneur. So today we're going to hear from some fantastic panelists who are going to tell you some of the roadblocks and some of the triumphs they've had along their way. I'd like to start by introducing Miss Cameo Stewart. Cameo is an interior designer, and she has a company called Cameo Creative. So for all you interior designers out there, I want you all to listen intently to what Cameo has to say. So I'm going to give Cameo a couple minutes to have the opportunity to introduce herself, her business, and who or what was the biggest inspiration to you for getting your business started. Ms. Stewart?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm so honored to be a part of this panel. So I'm Cameo Stewart, the owner and design maven of Cameo Creative LLC, and I specialize in interior design and graphic design services. So when it comes to interior design, I help people remodel their homes, I help them decorate, I help them stage their homes. I also work with individuals and businesses to grow their branding and their marketing through graphic design. So I do social media management, a lot of fun stuff under the umbrella of design in my business. As far as inspiration, I spent several years working in corporate marketing and design, and I always had the dream of becoming an entrepreneur and running my own business, but I was always afraid of, not having a steady paycheck coming in with a job, benefits and health insurance and all those things that you get with having a full-time career. But a couple of years ago, my mother actually became sick with terminal brain cancer. And before she passed away, I did a room makeover for her, and she loved it. And she told me, she said, Cameo, you need to do this. You are gifted. You should really pursue this full time. And I just didn't believe that it was possible, but it was. And so unfortunately, she didn't live long enough to see it come to fruition for me, but I've been a full-time entrepreneur now for almost 4 years, and I'm grateful to my mother for giving me that push to step out on faith and make it happen, because I didn't always believe that it was possible.
Thank you so much, Cameo. Family is always a very important factor in becoming a successful entrepreneur. We appreciate your story, and I know that your mother is looking down on you. She's very proud of you today.
Thanks.
So thank you. One other thing I forgot to mention before we move forward with our next dynamic panelist, if you have any comments, any questions you'd like for us to ask the panelists directly, we will have time for that, both during our panel discussion and at the end of our panel today. Please make sure you drop your question, your comment in the chat section. Miss Brittany will make sure that she's monitoring that, and we'll jump in when the time is right to ask that question. Thanks again, Cameo. I'd like to move on to Mr. Juwan Davis. Juwan is a fashion and clothing designer. So I know many of you out there have an eye for fashion and have always thought about starting your own fashion company. Well, Mr. Juwan Davis is the founder of Le Carte Noir. Did I pronounce that right, Juwan?
Le Carte Noir. But yeah,
Le Carte Noir. So yes,
yeah,
so please, Juwan, Mr. Davis, please tell us a little bit about yourself and why or who inspired you to get started with your business.
all right. So just the basics. My name is Juwan. I'm from Cincinnati. I graduated at UC with my marketing degree, and I'll say my brand came about in 2017. It was me and another one of my colleagues. And we were just like, we want to be able to create, because what we did were we like to like throw events, and we wanted to have a name behind it. So we started off and say, Le Carte Noir. So what it means, translate, it's French, but when you translate it, it means the black card. And so, it sounds classy, and we like that. So not only did we want to like create a brand out of it with like clothing, we wanted it to be like a lifestyle type of thing. So with Le Carte Noir, always like my motto that I kind of go by is, the black card, which means, when you think of the black card, you think of something that has no limits. So with our brand, we want people to know, like, when you wearing this brand, like, anything is the limit, whether it's you're an artist, whether you're a stylist, whether you make music or anything. We want you to like feel good when you're wearing this brand. So that's kind of how like the brand came about. How I kind of got like started into like business and like clothing. I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. So it started when I was I'll probably say like 12. I started my own candy business, and I'm like, this is something that I love to do. I love, making money myself and like just being my own boss. So that's kind of like how the brand came about. My business partner that I started with is no longer like with me, so it's just me right now.
That's
Thank you
great.
for that. Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to join us today, and knowing that you've always had that entrepreneurial bug since you was 12 years old. I'm sure we'll hit home with the number of the students who are out there listening who are entrepreneurs the same as you were then and now. So thank you so much, Juwan, for joining and for that good feedback.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, our next panelist is another successful entrepreneur. Her name is Simone Charles. She is the founder of Social Butterfly Events and Designs. So for all our event planners out there, and those who like to put on very high level events, Simone is definitely someone you need to get to know and get to learn a lot from. So Simone, if you could take a couple of minutes to introduce yourselves and tell us about who or what inspired you to start your own entrepreneurial venture.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me, Tariq. I'm so happy to be here today. Hello, everyone. I'm Simone Charles. I am your social butterfly behind Social Butterfly Events and Designs. I started Social Butterfly in 2015 officially. I like to tell people that my company pretty much saved me. I started it out of necessity. The name of the company is Social Butterfly Events and Designs because it gives testament to the fact that the reason why I started. Initially, I used to volunteer throughout the community in order to basically find a way to get out and pretty much put myself into the community. I struggled with social anxiety, extreme social anxiety. And so in order to actually meet new people, find a way to get into new places, I would initially just start to volunteer. And I realized that pretty much I had a knack for logistics. I had a knack for making things look beautiful. And so Social Butterfly Events came about. Someone told me once that pretty much I turn into a social butterfly when I'm doing what I love. And it kind of stuck with me, and that's where I am right now. So I'm the owner and creative director of Social Butterfly Events and Designs. We provide event planning, decor services for everything from corporate, social, as well as venues and venue consulting. And then I'm also the owner of the Confetti Room, which is an intimate venue and decor studio located downtown in historic OTR.
All right, thank you. Turning your fears into strengths. That's an awesome, awesome story. Thank you, Simone.
My pleasure.
Our last and final panelist is Mr. John Moore. Mr. Moore is president and founder of More Air, which is a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning service. Mr. Moore has been involved as an entrepreneur for a very long time and also holds a variety of roles on boards and committees throughout a number of different nonprofits in the city. So I'd like to welcome John Moore to our panel and ask you, Mr. Moore, if you could provide us with who or what inspired you to start your own business.
But thank you for including me on this panel. Hearing all of these stories are just the foundation of why we all do this stuff. Some through necessity, some through inspiration from family, some through just getting past our own barriers, which is fantastic. More Air is a heating and cooling company. We do residential and commercial air conditioning and heating. And inspiration comes from watching entrepreneurs in my family, watching folks whose business was fishing and they sold fish, watching people who were agricultural, or they were in some things that people may look at like, oh man, that's a hard business, but watching them take something and be able to feed families and raise children and make impact in the community by just with their own talents. So watching that was an inspiration. Also growing up, just seeing things like Black Enterprise magazine and saying to myself, man, I really want to be in one of these magazines one day, like reading the stories and profiles of how people, and normally people of color, have a much more unique path to entrepreneurship and business ownership. And so those are things that have inspired me. And I'm just really excited to share more throughout the day.
Thank you so much. We definitely take pleasure having family members, aunties, uncles, cousins who are also entrepreneurs and take motivation in their achievements to become the best entrepreneurs we can be. So John, I've got a follow-up question for you, and then I'm going to ask each of the other panelists the same question, which is, what's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur? You know, especially a minority entrepreneur. And just to follow up on that, what's some of the greatest rewards? So what's some of the challenges and some of the rewards of being an entrepreneur, John?
I'll say one of the biggest challenges. I'll do it in two parts because some are unique to having employees, some are unique to not having employees. I say one that's not related to having employees is going to be being confident in your own pace and your own race. You're going to see so many other companies that you believe are doing so much better than you or so much further ahead than you, and it's aspirational, but also you can't let it be frustrating. Your race is your own race. Like, you were chosen by the man above or whoever you believe in, that your race is your race, and you're doing a great job in that race. And you have to be committed to stay in that course. And it's challenging sometimes because we're all human. So it's challenging to say, man, I'm not doing enough, but you're doing great. And that's the biggest thing, is really giving yourself those affirmations to keep moving forward. On the employee side, the biggest challenge is making sure that you are doing your job to take care of the people who put their trust and their family's trust in coming to work for you every day. That's a big responsibility. It can be challenging sometimes. It's a big responsibility that your job when you come every day is to serve those who said, you know what, this is a place I'm going to build my career. That's another one. The biggest, you said, was the biggest reward, or what was the next question?
You talked about some of the challenges. What's the biggest reward for you as an entrepreneur that you can say, hey man, you know what, this is why I love being an entrepreneur?
Well, it's seeing your employees grow, seeing your business grow, see you go in places that if you ever stop and look back a year or 2 years behind you and doing things you never thought you would do, getting exposure you never thought you would have. I mean, probably people on the panel maybe some years back would say that they would never be on this panel, right? So now here you are. So being able to see some level of progress, some level of growth is always probably the biggest reward.
Awesome. Yes, seeing growth and realizing dreams faster than you ever thought they would happen has definitely been a reward for me. There's, like you said, there's places that I've gone and achieved I never thought I would be there. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. Simone, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, especially as a African American female? You know, you don't run into some of the obstacles that we as men unfortunately have, the ability to overcome. So what's some of the obstacles that you've challenged in becoming a minority woman-owned entrepreneur, and what's been some of the biggest rewards for you?
I'd have to say the biggest, one of the biggest challenges that I have, which I think over time I've come to, I guess, somehow appreciate this as well, is the fact that being a minority entrepreneur, we do not have a blueprint to entrepreneurship. And it depends on how you look at it. You know, sometimes you feel that it may be a stumbling block, but then it also builds muscle strength. It gives you the adversity that you face gives you the opportunity to build muscle strength and be able to handle different things that come your way as a minority entrepreneur. One of the things that I enjoy the most being a minority entrepreneur and a woman entrepreneur is basically challenging myself and seeing others that are in the same space that I am. Because there are times where we come together and we talk about the challenges that we face, and sometimes we're able to bond over those same challenges. I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate.
Yes, iron definitely sharpens iron. Seeing other entrepreneurs like yourselves and others who are out is always definitely inspirational to me. So Juwan, same question for you. You know, what's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur, especially a minority entrepreneur, and what's the biggest reward?
So I say one of the biggest challenges, like being an entrepreneur, is coming out with like clothes that you think are like going to sell and like be the best thing ever, and then like putting all the groundwork down for it, and sometimes it doesn't go the way you plan. So you have to be comfortable with allowing yourself. You have to be patient. You just have to kind of like trust the process because every day I'm not selling clothes. So in that time I have to find ways on better ways to better my business and just find other like sources of income because you can't just it's kind of tough, like, especially like just starting off with me. I noticed like with my business I have to invest a lot of my own money, so like a lot of like money and time. But the biggest reward doing all that is seeing people like wear my brand and like people just enjoying it, people talking about it, like, did you see his shirt? So that's really rewarding, like knowing that it's people that like what you have done and created, and especially with like the website and everything too, like all the work that you put into your business. That's the biggest reward, is seeing like people like love what you have. So
That's
that's for
awesome.
me.
So I built that. I made that.
I
Absolutely.
I made
Definitely.
that exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Cameo, same question to you, please. What's the, you know, biggest, hardest part of being an entrepreneur and the biggest reward?
When I started on this journey, one of the hardest things for me was having the confidence that I could do this. When it comes to interior design, there aren't many African Americans designers who are in that field, and just here locally in Cincinnati, there aren't many black women or men designers. So jumping into this arena and being one of the only ones, and then having some doubt because I did not go to school for interior design. I'm a graduate of Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, but my undergrad degree is in anthropology. And so I doubted myself, wondering whether or not I could call myself a designer, because I didn't go to school for that. But God gave me a gift. I was able to get my certification in design. And when God, you have a gift, no one can take that away from you. So with all the family and friends and my network and people who supported me, that helped give me the confidence that I could do this. And when I look at some of the interior designers that I admire who are internationally known, many of them don't have a degree in interior design either. So I had to, get over that barrier, not let that block me. But one of the most rewarding things, I've had great success in growing my business in the last few years. Blessed to have won pitch competitions. I was featured in a design magazine twice. But beyond that, the biggest thing is seeing a smile on my client's face, hearing them say, I love the design, I love my new room, telling me that they're so excited about, the design. That brings me joy. Especially my clients who have children, and I do transformations for kids' rooms and their makeovers. Seeing the kids jump up and down and be excited with their new space, it brings me so much joy. It makes what I do worth it.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, as a person who has a history degree from the University of Cincinnati, who now sells real estate, I can definitely understand and sympathize with the fact that you're doing something different than what you have education in. So thank you so much for sharing. I see Brittany on the screen. So Brittany, did you have some questions or comments from the chat for our panelists?
I do. So we actually have a question from Miss Leslie Lyles, and the question is posed to the entire panel. Have any of you started to create a blueprint to entrepreneurs for others, as like paving the way for others to follow that entrepreneurial journey? I'll repeat the question. Have any of you started a blueprint to help others basically join this entrepreneurial journey?
So great. So who has a blueprint they would like to share? Simone, go ahead and get started.
So I wouldn't say it's necessarily a blueprint, but I guess you could look at it the way you want to. Cameo touched on this a little bit, that in the space of creativity and arts, being a minority entrepreneur in this particular area, in an area where we love beautiful things, an area where we create luxury for clients. It's not an area that's traveled a lot by minorities. And being in the event industry, I think it's a little bit different than traveling down the road of tech or maybe construction or something that's more considered a necessity. And so something that I find and that I talk about with other entrepreneurs in my area is that we have a hard time when it comes to how we value ourselves, how we price our services, how we allow our clients to place demands on us. And after hearing that so much, one of the things that I wanted to do was to sort of create some type of collectivity amongst myself and other event industry professionals in the tri-state area. And so I recently founded Cincy Noir Nuptials and the Cincinnati Noir Collective, excuse me. And basically what it is it's a platform for Brown, Black event industry professionals, because I realized that we can become greater in numbers, basically. You know, by having collective power, not only are we able to get together and voice the struggles that we're going through, there's so many times where, you know, someone has said to me, hey, I'm having a hard time when it comes to pricing this service, pricing that service. I need a vendor source for this particular item. And these were questions that I was fielding a lot. And so I realized that it was something that we needed. And I guess I didn't realize when I was starting this that I was creating a blueprint to entrepreneurship for others that are in my field, because it was something that was needed. We just didn't have the voice to speak up and say that we needed it.
Awesome. So yes, definitely participating with other folks in your field and learning the, positive things that they're doing is great. That's an awesome blueprint. Did anyone else want to jump in on that? Okay. Any other questions from the? I'm sorry, Cameo.
No, I was just going to say, starting off my business, there was no blueprint for me. I didn't know what I was doing, aside from registering my business and getting my LLC. It's like, okay, what next? But I will attribute, my success here in Cincinnati as an entrepreneur to an organization that essentially helped lay out the blueprint. Mortar Cincinnati is an organization that helps business owners get started, grow their business. It gives you the blueprint of everything that you need to know to be successful in your business. But they also have amazing resources for access to capital, grants, funding for your business. They partner you with a mentor. And so being a part of an organization like that, they essentially laid out the blueprint for me. And now I can take what I've learned from that and use it in my business, but also help inspire other business owners who are looking to become an entrepreneur.
Kimia, where can they find out more information about Mortar?
So on social media, on Instagram, it is at We Are Mortar, MORTAR. And the organization is Mortar Cincinnati on Facebook. And yes, their web address, I think it's wearemortar.com, I believe.
Okay. Well, we all can Google Mortar. It's MORTAR. I think that's a huge resource for folks who are looking to start their own business. John, you also are involved on a number of different business chambers. Do you know any other type of training classes or blueprints or things, that additional resources that young entrepreneurs who are listening to us today can take advantage of?
Yeah, the beauty of, we're in an area that has a lot of different resources. I know when I meet with entrepreneurs in my office, there's one book I always tell them to grab, and it's called The E-Myth. And so the E-Myth is basically, it's easy to read story of basically about the importance of standard operating procedures, which basically is writing down what you do to deliver your business, right? And it's a very important book. It's a very important thing to think about in your business. But another great resource in Cincinnati is Main Street Ventures. I'm on the board for Main Street Ventures. But Main Street Ventures is pre-revenue grant dollars. as one aspect of it. There's also, after you have revenue, you can get grant money for it. But, for a lot of us, access to capital, I think it was mentioned before, is a tough thing to get your hands on, especially from a traditional bank. So when you have groups like Main Street Ventures, and I think the Greater Cincinnati Micro Enterprise Institute also has grant dollars to help you get started with your idea. A lot of times we just run out of money. We don't run out of ideas. We don't run out of hustle. We don't run out of drive. We don't run out of customers. A lot of times we just run out of money. And so resources from the Greater Cincinnati Micro Enterprise Institute, also from Main Street Ventures or other places to help support your dream.
And John, when you say grant money, does that mean that the business has to pay the money back, or is that free?
That's free. Well, it's free. You don't have to pay it back.
so that's money that you do not have to pay back for
Right.
our future entrepreneurs out there listening. Anytime you hear the word grant money, you should definitely start listening a little bit harder, because that's money that's granted to you that you don't have to give back. It's money that you can use to get your business up and running. Dollars that you can use to buy equipment. Maybe it's a camera, maybe it's a phone, maybe it's a computer to make sure you can run and operate your business. An iPad, perhaps, if you're a designer, when you show someone some things that you're working on. So anytime you have an opportunity to find some grant dollars, I would definitely encourage all of you to look into that more. Juwan will ask the same question to you as well. What's the blueprint? What are some things that are out there to help entrepreneurs get started with doing their own clothing line?
Oh yeah, like someone said before, I didn't really have a blueprint either. I just knew, it was time for me to get started. So what kind of helped me get into the direction that I am. I watch a lot of like YouTube videos, try to read a lot of books, or just follow other people that have businesses and try to see like what they did. Because it's always cool to like, if you don't, in the business world, it's always easy to connect with other entrepreneurs like yourself. So just like a thing that I did is I would go to like different events and just network with people and, get knowledge from everybody, because what I'm saying, you can never learn too much knowledge. And that's kind of one of the things that helped me along the way. Also, I remember they were doing a while back, like the SBA grant. That's something that helped me out with my business. They gave me 10 grand, like you said, and you don't have to pay that back. But that was pretty good. And also, I am familiar with the Main Street Venture, so that is a very good like resource to use as well. But me more so is like my own like research, and I do eventually like want to create a blueprint for people to follow, just so it's easier. Because with me, it was kind of tough. Like I was learning everything like on my own, so I was making a lot of poor decisions, and it was a very learning process. So if I could create a blueprint to help others not have to go through those things as well, I would definitely eventually want to do so.
Awesome. One more follow-up question for you, Juwan. When you started your business, did you have any doubts that you had going into it, and how did you kind of overcome that?
Okay, so with my business, I did have some doubts because I was kind of like doing everything on my own. Like I couldn't really afford like to hire employees to help me. So I was caught up in doing everything, like from my website to the inventory to like spreadsheets and everything. And it was overwhelming. And I would catch myself some days like, straying away from doing like my business stuff and kind of like catch my mental. So it was kind of like, that was a lot. I will say that was a lot that during that time frame.
Awesome. Simone, you've been operating a successful event planning business for quite some time now. What's one piece of advice you would share with anyone interested in owning their own business as well?
I think the most important thing would be processes. Being an entrepreneur, one of the things is that you're always in go mode. Juwan kind of touched on this a little bit, that, sometimes you have to wear multiple hats. And we don't realize how important our processes are, especially when you're the one that's wearing the multiple hats in the business, and you may not take the opportunity to, sit down and write things out like John mentioned. being able to delegate, knowing when to delegate at certain times in the business. So I think processes are important because they allow us to, one, take a break and recharge. They allow us to know when to delegate and be able to find the right people to delegate to. And you know, they allow us the opportunity to sort of look at the business from the outside in and sometimes see where things may not be going right in the system, I guess. So I'd say the most important thing is processes.
Processes.
And Simone, can you give us a very brief definition of what a process is for our students that may not know what that is for a business?
Sure. So processes. I'll take my business for instance. We may be getting ready to do a wedding, and one of the important processes that we have to go through when we're getting ready to do a wedding is basically we go through what's called like a packing list. We go through packing days, and if the wedding is on Saturday, then on Tuesday, we're looking at, okay, what do we need to take to this wedding? What does the client expect? And so we're going through a list of items. We're going through, you know, who does what, when does this get loaded, into what truck does it get loaded? If the wedding has florals, we're looking at how we're going to get them there, how far ahead of time they need to be there, making sure that it's not too hot outside. And that they can withstand, you know, certain conditions. And so there's so many working parts to that, but there's so many other working parts to a business as a whole. And my background is actually in organizational leadership and development. And one of the things that we may not realize is that, you know, the fact that there are so many working parts, it's sort of a caveat, where if one part doesn't work right, it basically limits the other moving parts of the business, just like you may have with a car. You know, if something doesn't work right, you don't take care of maintaining, you know, your oil, eventually it wears on other parts of the car. The same thing with a business and your systems, making sure that everything is in place so that they all mesh together well like a puzzle and enable the whole system to basically work right.
Thank you so much, Simone. Same question for Mr. Moore.
Right,
What are
so
some doubts that you may have had? Not necessarily some doubts, but one piece of advice that you would share with anyone interested in owning their own business. One piece of advice.
tough to narrow down to one. We've gone over the processes, which is huge. I guess I'm gonna double down on that because it's what I see a lot in most of our businesses, because the overwhelming majority of small businesses are doing it alone. They're solopreneurs. They may have an intern or something like that. So I want to double down on those processes on how you deliver the product you sell, whether it's your recipe, right? And so what that allows you to do as you do take on people, you get a chance to see what are you spending the most time on and what you need to offshoot. When you get time, when you're ready to offshoot it, so you don't have those the pain points that Mr. Davis brought up of like just kind of get into a flurry of things. Once you do that, one thing I did, especially early on, was I would take one day where I didn't take any meetings. I didn't take meetings. I didn't take anything, and I just focused on the business during that period of time. And so I'll recommend that for anybody too. Like take one day a week where you're not responding to you're not focused on just customers, you're not focused on external, you're only focused on internal and making your business better.
Awesome. So yeah, so we've heard about process twice now, and really in my mind what it comes down to is just keeping a calendar and sticking to it for sure. So Ms. Stewart and Mr. Davis, did you guys want to add anything to the question that we're dealing with now? One piece of advice that you would tell anyone interested in owning their own business?
One of the things that I'm learning that John touched on is, being a solopreneur, because I'm a team of one. And as my business is growing, as I'm, getting opportunities for major contracts, I'm realizing that I can't do it all alone. Before COVID, I did have an intern briefly, but I'm going to need to expand and have a team, because I don't want to be in a position where I have to tell a client, no, I can't take on your projects. And you have to have balance, so you can't take on everything, but I would be able to better run my business as a whole if I had support, if I had a team. So that is something that I'm still learning, still growing in my business. But yeah, those processes, they would run a lot smoother if I had someone else that I could possibly delegate things to and didn't have to take everything on. I do the designing, then I do the admin work. There's so many pieces and parts and processes that go into it. And when you're just one person, you could get burned out. And you don't want that to happen, because I love what I do, and I never want it to become a thing where, I don't like it anymore. But I could make things easier, work smarter and not harder, if I wasn't alone. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Solopreneur. So an entrepreneur who works by themselves. That's awesome. Awesome. Juwan, we'll close that question out with you. What's one piece of advice you would share with anyone interested in owning their own?
Yeah, I believe everybody touched on it pretty well, but definitely having that team. Because like you said, like everybody else said, it's kind of hard, like trying to run your business by yourself. Like it's like I said, it's very draining. So I guess my word of advice, is just don't be afraid to ask for help, and it's okay to have a team and people to help you to accomplish those things that you want to do.
Awesome. Don't even be afraid to ask for help. That's a hard thing for us solo entrepreneurs out here doing our own thing. So we're getting ready to wrap up, and I've got one big question for you guys. So I just want to make sure that you take this opportunity to tell everyone again the name of your company, how people can reach you, whether that's internet, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. But I want you all to answer just this one last question. I know it's a big question, so just kind of think about it. So we'll start with Jawan. We've got a lot of students that are already out there that are listening. They've already got a plan and a vision for what business they want to operate or what they want to own. What are some things they can do to prepare themselves now to get ready to start that business when they're ready to start that business, whether that's this year, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now? What are some things that they can be doing now to help them get that business going? So we'll start with Mr. Davis, closing remarks.
Okay. Um, I'll say like one of the biggest things you can do to like slowly start to prepare is kind of like y'all said, like have a blueprint, which is something like I said I didn't have, and I feel like if you start off with a blueprint, it allows you to like see everything that you're trying to accomplish, and you could like knock it off. Because what I've been learning is the more I like write things down and like actually create like a schedule and a list of things and dates that I want to be get done, it gets done. So that can help you like in the process. Like I said, just make sure you do like your like research and just like you guys said before, it's a lot of grant money out there. And I know like, it's hard times right now, and it can be expensive, trying to like uh manage your own business. But like they said, you can utilize all those grant opportunities, go to networking events, just getting information. Like information is the key to like everything. And it helps. So I would say like that's one of my big like takeaways is like creating a plan, not being afraid to ask others, and just don't be afraid.
Awesome. And where can people find you, Juwan? How can they find you? How can they follow up with you if they've got a question? Where would be the
Okay.
best way for them to reach you?
So my Instagram, my business Instagram is LeCarte Noir, which is LeCartenoir. And then yeah, so you can reach me on Instagram. My website is www.lecartenoir.com. So it's www.lecartenoir.com.
All
So that's
right.
how you can reach me. No
Thank you
problem.
so much, Mr. Davis. We appreciate you
Thank you for
joining us.
having me.
So hang
Yes,
on.
sir.
We're still going to take some questions from the chat. So those of you who have questions, please drop them in the chat. Miss Brittany will drop on and get those questions asked. So Cameo, Miss Stewart, to you, the same question. If we've got students that are already out there, they've got a plan, they've got a vision for how they want to do their business. What are some ways they can start preparing now? And then also share with us how we can follow you and get in contact with you.
Great. So one of the biggest things that was beneficial for me, right out of high school, I had an internship with major international brand. I was the corporate office of Express, Bath and Body Works, Victoria's Secret. They're based in Columbus, called L Brands, and that internship really introduced me to so many aspects of design and taught me a lot of what I know. As I mentioned before, my background's in anthropology. I did not go to school for interior design or graphic design. But with that internship that I had throughout undergrad, I learned so much about store design and construction, about visual merchandising, about graphic design, branding, marketing, visual communications. I mean, it was a foundation that taught me a lot of what I needed to know. And being in that corporate environment and working and collaborating with people, it was a great foundation for me. And then, just seeking out opportunities like internships in the field that you're interested in, and then having a mentor is huge. So throughout my internship, from 18 years old till I graduated from college, I had a mentor in that program. And then once I was a senior in college, I had the opportunity to mentor high school seniors, college freshmen who were coming into the fold, and able to share with them my experiences. But even today, as an adult with my business, I do have a mentor. My mentor was provided during my time with Mortar Cincinnati, but even though I graduated from that program, I still keep in touch with my mentor, and he's a great resource in helping me just, figure some things out when I hit those roadblocks with my business. My mentor is there to just assist me along the way and help me with other opportunities, so I'm grateful for that. So having an internship and that mentorship, that's really important. Again, I'm Cameo Stewart, designer and owner of Cameo Creative LLC. You can find me on Instagram at Cameo Creative. On Facebook, it's Cameo Creative LLC. And then my website, where you can view my portfolio, learn more about me. And my social media feed is also on my website. And my web address is www.mycameocreative.com. So that's MyCameocreative.com. And I just want to say thank you so much. I'm just honored to be a part of this with these amazing panelists, and I'm excited for the students as they branch out and explore opportunities. Thank you for allowing us to be here today to share with you.
Thank you for joining us, Cameo. Same question to Ms. Simone Charles. 1 minute, please.
Sure. I'd have to say my biggest takeaway is making sure that you have a mentor. Where I am right now, I learned that a little bit later on in life. And so I could honestly tell you that I have experience in, not having one and finding myself in situations where I may have needed someone to vouch for me, or I just needed a listening ear. And then now that I'm further in my business, I look back and, I have a mentor now, and the conversations that there's so many times where I sit and I say, well, I wish that I would have had someone like this in my life earlier, so that I didn't have to learn with money or spend the money and make the mistake and then realize later on down the line, or go down a certain path only to know that someone could have said to me, hey, I made this mistake when I was starting my business. This is something that you may not want to do, or you may want to, try this vendor or ask these particular questions. A mentor is invaluable. I believe it's probably one of the most invaluable things that you could have as an entrepreneur. And realizing too, that you don't necessarily have to have one mentor. You can have multiple. You can have a passion mentor. Basically, just making sure that you have someone that is there to provide support, I think, is the most important thing. So again, I am your social butterfly. You can find me at social.b.events on Instagram. You can follow the Confetti Room and see all the beautiful things that we create. We are located in OTR on Ray Street. You can follow us on Instagram. We're at confetti.room.cincy, and view us online as well at social.bevents.com.
Right. Thank you so much. And Mr. Moore, I know we're kind of up against it, but we've heard a lot about identifying resources like Mortar, small grants, internships, excuse me, as well as big on mentors. Is there anything else that you would add to that? The students who have a plan and a vision right now that they can add, they can be preparing themselves now. And then also give us some ways which we can find you. I know we're up against, we've only got about maybe 30 seconds, so I know that's a lot, but I know you can pull it off.
All right. So one big thing I would say that is important for our students to do and really spend a lot of time on is like public speaking and being able to communicate and articulate your plan and your vision of what you have. I would think most people in the panel can attest that being able to tell their story and sell their product or get buy-in for what they do is probably the biggest aspect of their jobs and their careers. I always say, what makes somebody an expert? They told you they were one. That's the only thing that makes somebody an expert. They told you they were expert. You believe them because they were able to articulate their vision very clearly and concisely to you. So working on public speaking and working on telling your story over and over again to something you can just rattle off in the 30-second elevator speech. You can find More Air at www.moreairco.com, and also on Instagram, Facebook, at Get More Air, at Get More Air.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moore. And again, my name is Dansby. I'm a full-time real estate agent with Caldwell Banker Realty. You can find me on Instagram at Downtown Dansby, as well as on Twitter at Downtown Dansby. That's Downtown DANSBY. And I see Brittany back on the line, so I'm going to pass it back over to Brittany for us to close us out.
Thank you. First, I would like to thank all of our panelists. You all did an excellent job with articulating not only your journeys, but also some really good advice for our students. Just taking a lot of notes here, making sure that you get connected and network, have a mentor, possibly pursue an internship so that you can get that experience young, and then write your plan, practice your professional skills, and execute your dreams. So thank you all for the opportunity to bring your skills and expertise to our student body. We are very appreciative. Special thank you to Junior Achievement for co-collaborating on this experience. And I would just like to welcome our students to continue to ask questions of your teachers, continue to uplift them. We could share your questions, comments, or just further inquiries with our panelists once these are posted to our YouTube pages. So please don't hesitate to continue the conversation, continue the learning and development. And with that, we hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you for joining us. See you next time.